Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with business owner, professional writer, and entrepreneur Ashley Logsdon. Over the past 18 years, she has worked with entrepreneurs in building their business and has spoken on the importance of understanding personality styles in business. She still actively runs her father's business called 48 Days and works with entrepreneurs on finding or creating work they love every day. As a parental unit, she is an unschooling family of 5, RVing the States full-time since October of 2016. This is a great story. Enjoy the interview.
Thank you for taking a minute out. And I want to begin everything here with kind of the global elephant in the room, which has been COVID. How did you survive the last few years with everything we've gone through, and how has it changed the way that not only you live your life, but the way that you conduct business now?
Well, for me, it honestly, a lot of the big impact affected me in a different way because I already worked remotely, so I was already location independent, and we also have been RVing the States since 2016. So we were pretty self-contained. We were used to not being around a ton of people because we love being out and traveling and being out in nature. And I already was working online. So a lot of the kind of the world coming to a pause and the schools being shut down and work being shut down and things like that didn't impact our family because we were already homeschooling, working independently and everything. There were a lot of things that did not shift in that. Now, that being said, travel shifted greatly for us, and our sort of travel went from hitting all of the lower 48 states and bouncing around from campgrounds to staying put in areas and staying on property, and then we ended up actually, because of the slowdown of 2020, staying longer stretches than what we had for a long amount of time, and ended up going into more opportunities for camp hosting and different ways of getting connected that way. So we actually ended up opening up new doors of opportunity through it that we hadn't done beforehand because we were used to being so fast-paced. So I think like many people, while COVID has definitely impacted in the negative, there are also opportunities where we can say, well, what does it make possible? And for us, it forced us to stop some of the speed in which we were moving and allowed us to really soak in and reset, what's really important for us in this new season in our lives and where do we want to go from here.
I find it interesting, with having kids, that, the impact that it's ultimately going to have on them and their lives. I think maybe a level of resilience and patience that other generations didn't have. As a parent, what are you seeing that might be a residual that will be a strength for the next generations?
I think there is a deeper awareness of what's going on and of our impact. This has been a very literal way to explain to our children the impact of how one small thing from one person can spread in such a large way. And so with that, I hope that is something that brings a heightened awareness for all of us and understanding, the ripple effect that we can have. And whether that impact is whether through a germ or an illness or whether it's the things we say and the things we do, it does carry on and extend way greater than us. And our generation, or our children's generation right now are growing up recognizing the ripple effect and impact in so many different ways for how what they choose now creates lasting effects moving forward for not just them, but for future generations.
So to get a handle on exactly what you do for a living, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looks up at you and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
I say, what I love to do is I love to work with families, just like a family like you, where there are kids involved and where there are lots of different opinions in the home, and we want to work together to make a big, happy family. And so what I do is I coach and I work with families in helping them to create the life where everyone gets along and enjoys their time together. So I help families to create the lives they thrive in.
So when you were in the third grade, what was your dream when you grew up?
My dream was to be a mama. And honestly, that's something that I felt very strongly from the beginning, that regardless of what that looked like, and whether that was being a mama to an orphanage in Haiti and being a mother role for people, or whether that was having my own children, I always knew that that beautiful privilege of motherhood was a very valuable component of who I was going to be. And it's so much so it's become not just who I am for a mama, but also in the role of the work that I do.
The one thing that's very key about our lives are the people that we look up to, role models, heroes. Who's been that consistently for you, a hero in your life?
Oh, man. There have been a lot of people that have inspired me and motivated me. And I will say because of the shift that it did in my life, I really looked up to Danielle Laporte. I read a book by her that changed my paradigm in looking at goals and not just looking at setting a big goal, but what's the feeling behind it? Like, who do we want to be? How do we want to feel? That really, really changed me and impacted my life. And so she's somebody that I admired. Brene Brown is another one that really influenced me and impacted me, and Marie Forleo is another one.
So as a writer and a creator, we have these moments in our lives, especially when we're younger, where we read a book or there's something artistically created that really moves us and gives us that clarity. What was that book for you, or what was that art when you were growing up that really opened your eyes up or you revisit now in your life?
I have so many great books that have impacted me at different stages of my life. And so when I was, as a young mom, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom by Christiane Northrup was a big impact on me. And the Firestarter Sessions by Danielle Laporte impacted me, and Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown. But really, if I want to go back to as a child, I was a bookworm. And when I was 10 years old, my brother, I swore that I would always eat meat. I loved eating meat, and I was an animal lover. And my brother, as a professional cyclist and recently converted vegetarian, gave me a book called Diet for a New America. And I'm blanking on the guy's first name, but it's by the family is the Baskin-Robbins family who wrote and the son wrote the book. And it was broken into these 3 different sections. And the first section was how smart animals were. And at 10 years old, I soaked it up. The second part got into all of the things of the reality of what they do to the animals. And then the third part was health. At that point, at 10 years old, that book completely rocked my world and shifted my whole dietary habits. But it also kind of opened the door, I think, for the first time of me really recognizing there's more to a story, and how connected are we to understanding what we're doing and why. And it started there with kind of laying a precedent of, know why I'm doing things, know where my source is, know more about it than just what's, offered on a platter. And get deeper with understanding the root of why you believe in things, you take a stance on things, you choose to do things in your life.
The decision to do something as nomadic and mobile as RVing is probably a pretty big one. How long had you been thinking about that, and how did it actually come to fruition for you?
We started talking about it in 2014 when we were celebrating our 10-year wedding anniversary, and we were dreaming of travel then. And we took a vacation, and just the 2 of us, our anniversary trip. And I took Danielle Laporte's book, Firestarter Sessions. I had no idea who this lady was, and I just was randomly reading this book. And I loved it, and I loved what she said about getting to the feelings behind the goals. And that started our trajectory of us looking at being more in the present moment. Why did we want to travel? Because we wanted to be in that state of awe, of being in the moment, and really appreciating and finding gratitude in the things that we saw around us. And so we started looking for how we wanted to do that. And so in 2015, we ended up taking the family and spending a month in Costa Rica, just as a reset. I mean, here we are in our lives where we had our, quote unquote, standard American dream, and we had our, 3 kids and our 6-figure income and the picket fence and the dog, and we were supposed to do something, get a new house, do something. And the more we talked about it, the more we dreamed of the travel. So we tried that travel out, and we recognized we love what not having all of the resources and just having to figure it out and doing it as a family and adventuring together. And we love that experience. And so as we started to look at, okay, where does travel take us from here, we recognized our beloved animals and the fact that traveling internationally with a dog was not easy. And then when we fell in love with Costa Rica, we realized, well, instead of just moving to another country, we hadn't even been out west at this point in our lives. We were from Tennessee, and my husband grew up in the South. We knew the South, but we did not know out west at all. And so that kind of prompted us looking at RVing as a great solution for us to allow for travel as well as accommodate our animals and be able to explore some of our own country. So we launched in 2016. My youngest had just turned 4, and our oldest was 9, so 4, 6, and 9. When we hit the road, and in the first 2 years, we hit all of the lower 48 states, and then we've been off and on traveling ever since then.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend a little time with them, who would it be?
On the planet right now and spend a little time with them? That's a good question. And because, my first response was the ones I'm living with right now. Because I so value and cherish the relationships we've worked hard on right here in our home with my husband and our kids. Beyond that, though, having a good, riveting conversation with somebody like Thich Nhat Hanh, or, of course, we have to work on some language barriers, but Oprah and Dr. Siegel is another one, and I'm looking at even books as I go. There's so many. Bono, that's another one. My dad's reading his book right now, Surrender, and has gone on and on about how great it has been. And it'd be interesting to just sit and have some conversation with them.
So what's been one of the best success stories, one of the best client success stories that you've ever had?
This one was actually a kind of a roundabout one. But I oftentimes work with families where, while they may come to me for one situation, oftentimes there's something deeper that goes into it. And so because of my work in the professional world with running my father's business, where we really are helping people find or create work they love, I've been in the entrepreneurial space and helping people with work a lot. And so I had a client who came to me wanting some family help, wanting some business help, but really came with the agenda of, how do I get my business straight so my family can survive and run? And in working with him and in having the conversations, it dawned on him, and he came to his own epiphany, that I've had it in reverse. I've been spending all my time trying to get my business right so my family can thrive, but I haven't addressed my family first. What does it take for my family to thrive, and what do we want? And how can my business support it? And that little paradigm shift of, trying to figure out how to make things work where you're forcing the money and then hoping your life will fit into it, as opposed to the opposite. What do I want this life to be? What do I want to create? And then how can my work support this lifestyle? Instead, it was a huge aha for him. It ended up opening the doors to not only him working on his business in a whole different way, but deeper connections with the family. And I was able to take the family a lot further and really get to know each family member and different things that they could do to kind of step into their own greatness, which allowed the whole family to connect in a much deeper way.
So every day you get up and you go about doing what you do with your day. What motivates you? What drives you to, do what you do with your business and with your life in general?
I am in the flow. Gratitude drives me. Joy for what is, and delight in the things that we experience and we see every day. I mean, our biggest drive is to further solidify and continue growing in our passion and connection with one another. And so anytime I'm talking with anyone else, it's that drive of connection. Where can we find a common ground? Where can we find something good, positive, a joy spark, something that can give fruit from this interaction? We can learn and we can come apart, both being better for that meeting.
So at the end of the day, how do you quantify a good day? What is it about a day where you say, that worked out, that was a good one?
I laughed, I loved, and I truly was present.
Let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into your 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could take all of the wisdom and all of the experience that you've gained in your life, and you can compress that into a piece of advice to your younger self. What would you tell that young version?
The big question that I was hit with in my 20s was looking at what my goal was. And that was a big helped me to focus and recenter. But now if I'm looking back and where I was in my 20s as I was trying to be the perfect mama and make everyone happy, is that I'd say the first key to unlocking happiness for everyone else around you is to make sure you're taking care of yourself in the process.
So everyone out there has a perception or an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your clients, but ultimately you're in control of your life. You're the one living it. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I am always learning and growing. I'm getting more wiser and humble as I have lived life. And I desire to come across to others as someone who is going to meet you where you are, show up and be authentic, and find the light to love in those I meet.
Wonderful. Ashley, if anyone out there wants to get involved with your podcast, blogs, writing, your business, anything involving your world, where should they go?
MamaSaysNamaste.com. MamaSaysNamaste.com. And if you go there, there's a free download of getting to know yourself better as well.
Wonderful. Ashley, thank you for taking time out. This has been wonderful. Good luck with everything. Have a great new year.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, travel, and so much more from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.